Are you in a toxic work environment? Well, I have a few tips and suggestions to consider if maybe you are in a toxic work environment. So I would say from day one of my suggestions would be is to take notes. Take notes of any incidences, any inappropriate comments, harassment, any situation that you feel that might be an area of concern. Why? Because if, God forbid, this situation has to be taken to HR, to union, or legally, you want to be able to have very good, detailed accounts of what took place. You want to have the date, you want to have the time. If you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. You want to have the date, the time, who was involved, where it was, the location. A lot of places people work at, they work at different locations. Not everybody stays stationed at the same location. You want to be able to just have a good account of what took place. Now, another tip or note I would have for working in, or are you in a toxic work environment, I would say is the statement, we are like a family. Listen, no. There's nothing more I dislike than a company that tells me we are like a family. Listen, you don't know me, you don't know my family, you don't know nothing about my family, you don't even know if I like my family. You may not want to be anything to be beside my family. Let's not make that statement. And I say that because all the places that I've ever worked at that made that statement, and people who I spoke to who worked at places that made that statement, it was a place from hell. Okay. So let's not do the we're a family statement. Like, no. I'm here for business. I'm here to deliver a service. And if along the way I build connections and I build, some genuine connections, hey, it's a plus. But let's not do the family thing. Let's not fake it. Let's not. Okay, so another thing I would say is a red flag or a thing to consider is micromanaging. Now, listen, I'm all for you have your company, you build your company, you want to make sure everybody is doing what they need to do and things are flowing how it needs to flow. But there's some places I've been to, they are basically ready to follow you to the washroom. Like, come on, y'all. Like, you hopefully went through a proper vetting and interviewing process. So why are you micromanaging me step by step, breath by breath? Come on, like, no. This is too much. In the beginning, the first few days, the first few weeks, sometimes even the first few months, people do need a lot of guidance. They're new, and you want to make sure that they are doing things and conducting themselves and following the business, steps and protocols. But come on. From where I come from, I don't know about any other country, but here in Toronto, Canada, you need to be of a certain age to even work. So if somebody's of a particular age, they must be able to conduct themselves in a particular way. So you following, and I've been to places like that. They following, like, you about to step on the back of my shoe. Like, come on now. Like, this is too much. So yeah, micromanaging to me is a red flag. Another thing that is a red flag is, I would say, belittling and disrespectful. Now, I've been to some places that they are really respectful. It's great. It's cool. Everybody's chill. And then I've been to other places where I'm just like, even the clients / participants are disrespecting you. Like, now how are you going to disrespect the people that are there to assist and help you? Come on, y'all. Like, this is a mess. Like, I've been to a place before where it was in my field. I graduated from George Brown College in the Assaulted Women's and Children Counselor Advocate Diploma Program. And so it's basically a sister program to social work, social service work, things of that nature. I had somebody telling me, oh, I graduated from here and I have my bachelor's in this. Okay, well, ma'am, you are now here. And I'm not trying to discredit you, but you're receiving help from this program and from me as an employee. Now, what? And then to make it worse, the management wasn't even backing us, the employees, to say, listen, We're gonna speak to the participants and the clients and let them know to have respect for y'all. Like, that's the worst thing. You went through the whole long list of getting the job at a place, and now you get the job at the place, and the participant, the clients, and the people that work there are disrespecting you. Now, why did y'all hire me then? So to me, that's a big red flag, because if the disrespect is going on like that, it's only gonna get worse. Next red flag I would say, or thing to consider, is a messy and a gossip and a work environment that has favoritism. Now, nothing is worse than you go to work, you're doing what you need to do, you're pushing, you're trying hard, but somebody else is getting all the credit. Somebody else is getting the praise and the admiration. Now, I've been to a workplace that, listen, y'all. Now, to me, I feel that especially if you're in a higher level of management, you need to really hold a different level of how you carry yourself. I've had higher management tell not just me, but the rest of the team why somebody was away and what type of surgery they were having, and etc., into the person's business. Now, come on, y'all. This is a mess. How can you as management be telling people why somebody's away and what kind of surgery they're having? Now, what happens if me and that person aren't even on good grounds? Now, I know all that person's business. Yeah, so to me, messy gossip, work environments that show favoritism and a lack of professionalism, that's a huge red flag. Like, you need to keep it tight. That person's away, or this is happening with so-and-so, especially if you're in a higher level of, you got to keep that. You gotta know how to hold your own. You can't be in management and be loose-lipped. Another level or area or point of concern, I would say, is a place that brushes off your concerns. Now, listen, I've been to some workplaces where they train me, I'm good to go. And I've been to some workplaces that after about a day or two or a week, they put me on the floor, and I'm like, wait, I'm not ready. I had so many questions and concerns, and they were like, and then not only in that area, but other areas, I had concerns about the participants, about the clients, about certain type of ways that I would deliver certain services, and they would brush it off. And I'm like, okay, this is a serious place that delivers crucial services. Now, how are y'all brushing off my concerns? That's a red flag. Your people are not properly being addressed, and their concerns and trained, and y'all ain't addressing that? Okay. If you see me looking down again, it's my notes that I'm looking at. So a next area of concern or red flag, I would say, is no update on your performance or how you're doing. Now, a lot of places, they do updates and performance reviews, every few weeks, every few months. I've been to some places, years are passing and they're not reviewing anything. Now, to me, that's a huge red flag. How is somebody at your place for more than 6 months to a year and ongoing, and you're not telling them, hey, you're doing A, B, C, D well, and the rest needs improvement. This is where the company is heading, da 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 da. Like, to me, I feel like if a company's not doing that and they're leaving you behind, they're leaving you behind. You may not be going with them. And that's happened to a few people that I've heard many stories of people who have been in workplaces where, companies didn't tell them certain things, and later on, they were left behind. So to me, I think positive, constructive feedback is definitely necessary. And if a workplace doesn't do that, or they don't have that set up, to me, I think in a professional, calm, well-mannered way, I think it's appropriate if you sometimes ask your management to give you feedback and to let you know, like, where do you need to improve and what needs to be done, or where's the company heading. And you may want to know that. You may want to keep going with the company, or you may want to part ways, or whatever it may be. But I think that is highly important, and it's a red flag when you're being left behind. Another thing I would say that's a huge red flag to know if you're in a toxic work environment is a lack of growth. How are you going to be with a company or organization and you're not even growing? I've been to some places where there's so much room for growth, and I've been to some places where you started at entry level and you're leaving at entry level. That's a red flag. So you want to know ahead of time so you can plan out your career. Nobody wants to be somewhere 5, 8, 10, 20 years and you're like, oh, I started at level 1 and I'm leaving at level 1. You need to know. So to me, that's a red flag. And it's even more of a red flag when a company or organization doesn't even mention these things. They just have you going, 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 going. They don't care because they know there's nowhere else for you to go. A next red flag, and these are not in any particular order, I'm just listing them out because they're red flags, is a high turnover rate. Now, I've been to some places where, people look like they are going to die at that place. And I've been to some places where people are leaving left, right, and center. Now, mind you, people might leave because maternity leave, they're going to grow their career, they're moving on. Some people are going back to school, some people have kids, some people are starting their own business. Grief or death or something happened in their family, but some places they just have a high turnover rate. They don't want to tell you that when you first jump on, and then when you get in there, and it's happened to me before, you're like, I asked the people that are there, the people who just left, people who are coming, who are going out, I'm like, wait, hold on, wait, what, whoa. Why is there so much moving pieces to this puzzle? Yeah, that's a red flag. Because to me, I feel like, yes, people move on and things happen in life, but if a company and the company culture is moving in a positive and a constructive and an uplifting way, people don't need to be running out the place almost like a burning building. Like, people are going to leave at the pace that they need to leave at. Okay, you're moving on with your career. Okay, you're having a child. Okay, you're growing a business. Okay. Not people scattering out like the place is burning down. That's a red flag. Because if they're leaving like that in a hurry, you may need to leave in a hurry. Another red flag and a thing to consider is not a lot of personal or sick time or bereavement time. A lot of places, they give this time to people because life happens. People pass away, you end up sick, God forbid, or family members, people close to you. You may need personal time, mental health, all kind of things happen to you. Now, I've been at some places where I've seen job ads online where they're giving all kinds of personal time away. And I've been to one place that they said they only have three bereavement days unpaid. And if you do want anything longer, you're gonna have to get a doctor's note, and it's gonna have to be approved. And listen, I don't know where anybody else is from, but I'm from Toronto, Canada, and a lot of the companies I've worked for, first of all, you have to even get an appointment with your doctor. Then you gotta tell your doctor why you need this doctor's note. Then you need to pay for the doctor's note, and then you need to get the doctor's note and give it to your employer, and then you need to make sure that your employer got it and it's approved. And then there's you see how many steps I just listed? About 5, 6 steps. So if you're going through a bereavement, you're gonna go through 5, 6, 8 whatever amount of steps. You're already going through a lot of distress. So to me, I think a really forward-thinking company or organization is a company that has these things in place. They have a balance. I'm not saying they should give you countless amount of time off. I mean, obviously you need to be there and the business needs to be functioning, but it is important to give your employees time off, and especially bereavement and childcare time and things of that nature. And if people need extensions, then things can be discussed further. But a lot of places I've been to, no, they don't work like that. They have this limited amount of time. If you need more off, then, and if not, some places are even willing to let you go. I'm like, what? Now that's a mess. That's a toxic workplace. It's not funny. I'm just saying, like, that is really a mess, because we in 2024, if you are not up to speed with moving on. Another red flag or thing to think about is an unclean or an untidy workplace. And a lot of people will be like, but listen, there's cleaning staff. Listen, I've worked at clothing stores. I've worked at social service, places that deliver that kind of service that they didn't have a cleaning staff. The employees were the ones that are supposed to clean. And okay, all right, okay. But I've been to places where they assign those tasks, and yeah, let's just say whatever they were assigning wasn't properly being completed. Okay, the women's bathroom was a mess. All kind of fluids and products and things, without going into too much info, was just all over. And no, to me, if the bathroom is a mess, that's a mess. And usually in most places that I worked at, that the bathroom was nasty and unsanitized and a mess, check the kitchen and check the microwave. Woo! I've been to many places like that, and guess what? Sandwich, I'ma just bring my drink, and that's it. I bring my sandwich and my drink and some little snacky stuff. I ain't worrying with nothing in a microwave of a place that can't even upkeep the washroom. And I thought that, the whole C to the 1 to the that we went through in 2020 and onward, y'all know what I'm talking about. I thought that would have brought a more awareness to workplaces and help keep them up to go with. I've been to places after 2020, and I'm like, public health needs to come here. Public health needs to come here, okay? Because woo, I didn't see. Anyways, moving on. More tasks than you are paid for. Now, I've been to some places that, and I've contacted legal advice before, and I asked, is this illegal that a workplace can list 10 tasks for you to do, and then when you get hired, they throw on another 10, and they're like, well, in Toronto, Canada, there's nothing that's legally stopping these companies from doing that. And I was like, wow, that's a damn shame, because sometimes if you knew certain things, you wouldn't jump on certain job opportunities. You may have a light back injury, you may have some type of injury elsewhere on your body, or things that restrict you, or things that you're just not comfortable doing. You want to know that before you take on that job. And if somewhere gives you 10 tasks to do, and then when you get hired they throw on another 10, well, now you're already hired, and you're kind of just like and they're not even paying you for those extra. They listed 10 and gave you 20, and they pay you for the 10 that's a red flag. Next red flag is an unsafe location. So some places are listed in some industrial kind of places, all kind of places. I've been to all kind of places. You want to make sure that where you're going, if you can help it, because sometimes you take the job that you need at a time and you're just trying to make that money and get to the next level, but you want to make sure that maybe, the place is properly lit. There's proper lighting. You can get transportation. It's not going to take you more than, hopefully it's not going to take you more than a good 5 minutes to get out to the main road. Some places I've been to, 20 minutes you're walking and you still haven't found the main road. That's a problem, especially if you're working past a certain time in the evening. We want to make sure that there's restaurants and, just malls and gas stations and things that are nearby, that if you need help, if you need any type of emergency, or what happens if you don't bring your lunch one day? You're in a rush, you left out. Oop, no lunch. Well, nothing's nearby. And yes, people will say, oh, there's, food delivery services. Okay, well, if you work 20 minutes in from the main road, some delivery services, you just want to consider certain things. You just don't want to put yourself into a very isolated situation, especially if you're not even driving. Another red flag or something to look into is an understanding and reasonable management. I've worked at some places where the management was cool. They were super chill. Listen, you're coming from school, you're coming to work, boom, we got you. 15 minutes late, we good. Worked at some other places, I don't know what was happening there. They almost look like they wanted to, follow you home and make sure that you were doing, some places, they really not understanding. And you really want to make sure you have employers and companies that, you're not going to do things out of the way and stretch the boundaries, but you want to be able to work at a place where they're fairly understandable and fairly reasonable, and you're not really throwing you through the ringer and making you do a whole bunch of extra things that are not necessary. Another thing to consider or think about when you're working at a place is there a union? Is there HR? And is there a department that fights for employees? And a lot of places will be like, well, of course there's HR. Well, who hired you? Listen, Again, I've been working since 2006, and for some people that might sound ancient, but I've worked at many places that they don't really have an HR. They had a director and they had one person doing hiring. That's it. Everything else was, I don't know how it came about, but it came. All I know is I got my check. But what I do know is that they didn't have proper things in place, and so when I needed sick time and when things needed to happen in certain type of ways and you needed to access things in certain type of ways, it wasn't happening because they didn't have an HR, they didn't have a union and all of that. So, it's good to, I'm not saying don't work in a place that doesn't have HR or a union, but just know that if those things aren't in place, well, it goes back to my first point. You really need to take notes. You really need to take detailed notes because, again, certain things may happen and may take place that if HR and all of that isn't in place, you really need to note these things down. So, and you really want an HR and a union and a department that's really fighting for the people. I've been to places that has those departments, and yet I don't even know why the department is there. They're barely even fighting for the people. They're more interested in upkeeping and upholding for the company, which I've been told from a lot of seasoned employees that I've talked to and had discussions with. A lot of them told me, listen, girl, forget about a union or HR, because they don't give nothing about y'all. They're all about upkeeping a company. And I used to think when I was younger and less seasoned, I was like, as I got older and went through certain things, I was like, So, but it is still good to have that in place. It is still good to, have that union and that HR and those departments in place. And even if they are in place, still keep your detailed notes of date, time, people, who, what, when, where, why, everything. Next, I would say is benefits. And I would say, consider what type of benefits the company or organization or the people that you're working for, what do they offer? And even if, let's say, for example, you work for a company and the company is called Company A. Sorry. And I'm just using that name as an example. I don't want to use no specific names because I don't need no specific problems. And let's say you work for Company A and they offer you dental, health, long-term disability, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what happens if they lay you off? What happens if the company goes out of business? What happens if you no longer work there? From what I know of, based on where I live in the world, and the companies I've worked at in the past, well, if you're no longer with the company, well, those benefits go as well. So you don't have them. Maybe it's different elsewhere. I don't know. But what I do know from talking to different insurance representatives and advisors and people that deal with benefit plans, they've always told me that, hey, nothing's wrong with having the benefits with Company A and having benefits outside of the company that you work with, and even combining them. Sometimes your company you work with has 70% coverage. You get coverage from outside and it's blah, blah, blah. By the time you put it together, boom, you got 100% or you got a certain amount. Or even if you're not going to put them together, it's just good to sometimes have benefits outside of the company you work with, because if for whatever reason you part ways with that company, you still have and especially if you have children, especially if you have a spouse, especially if you have certain type of special circumstances or illnesses, it's good to have benefits outside of your workplace. Because even say, for example, I had one advisor say to me, what happens if you fall and it's right outside of what your workplace deems their property? Some workplaces may not cover you for the fact that you're now off of work and you fell one sidewalk over from what they deem to be their, there's just a lot of, some places have a lot of different, technical things to what they're going to cover and what they're not going to cover. And sometimes when you have your coverage outside of that, you good. Possibly. But your workplace might be like, you done fell 2 sidewalks down, then that ain't got nothing to do with us. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes it's just good to have, stuff outside of work, because hey, you work there. It ain't your company. They don't owe you that kind of loyalty. And a next thing, or I would say to consider and to look out for is to, and I wish I said this earlier, was mental health, self-care. Make sure that you're making time for yourself, for your mental health, self-care, reflecting, and just reviewing that day, that week, that month, that year. Regroup so you can go back again the next day. Or even if you're not going back or whatever it is, reviewing, having mental health practices and routines are important. I remember when I was working in certain companies that were in the social services mental health area, it was so important for me to have my own time and just do my own thing and regroup. It is, because to be honest, a lot of times work will stress you out. It could be what is seen as the most simplest job, and what is even seen as the most simplest jobs has different areas and each job has different things to it that are going to have things that we all need to just regroup, recenter. Life is happening, other things are happening outside of work. You need that time, and I would say really make time for self-care and mental health, whether it's a walk, whether it's journaling, seeing a professional, a healthcare professional, just whatever you know and you need for yourself and your situation, do it. Don't allow and don't let time to pass and to be over. It's easy to get overly, overwhelmed and everything in the workplace, and weeks, months, years go by and you let yourself go, and then you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Take time out for you, because at the ending of the day, nothing is more important than you and your health and your mental health and your well-being. So this by far is not a complete list of things that are red flags if you're in a toxic workplace or things to consider, but it is a list of a few things I thought about and said, you know what, I'm gonna do a video on it, and hopefully others, I invite you to add what you have and what you consider red flags or whatever, and like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye y'all.